Hello.
Welcome back.
Good afternoon. Did everyone sleep? Take a little nippy nap this afternoon? Hopefully so. Did everyone
Watch
have
an episode of
a
something?
great nice lunch?
Yeah.
Aha, welcome back. Here we are, session 3. Just a little reminder to rename yourselves if you would. So that'll be your first name and your city, just so we know where we're all coming from. And looks like we have Dr. Eric Jones with us. Lovely to have you. Thank you so much. He's our surprise special guest today. Very happy to have you on, and just to let you know what's been going on. This is our third of 3 sessions, and we start off with some educational components, a roundtable, where we do breakout rooms, and then toward the end of our session is when we love to have your input and reflection on the day and do a Q&A with you. But as people are joining, would you like to introduce yourself, Dr. Jones?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Jones. I'm a 4th-year medical student at California North State University in Elk Grove near Sacramento, Northern California. And yeah, I'm very interested in Parkinson's. My grandfather had Parkinson's, kind of got me introduced to the field, and I'll be applying to residency this year in the field of physical medicine and rehabilitation, and hoping to get into movement disorders and specifically like Parkinson's rehab in the future. And I also serve on the PANC board, some of my fellow board members here, Parkinson's Association of Northern California. Been there for about a year now. But yeah, just love getting involved with this community and talking with people like you guys.
Thank you so much, and we need you. Thank you for going into this field. That's really great to hear. And so, just so you know, Dr. Jones Kelly is doing our tech backup for us today, and Rachel and I are co-facilitating. So, if you have any needs, just let us know, and please feel free to pipe in and participate along with everybody as we go through. Okay, let's see here. Looks like most of us are set. I see that Jim is having trouble connecting to audio. I'm not sure if we need to help him out at all, Kelly, but oh, looks like he just got in. Perfect. And Susan, are you there? Are you
I'm still lying flat.
okay? Hopefully your sciatica is doing a little bit better.
Well, it did over lunchtime, but then I walked around a bit too much. Come back again.
Yes, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I can hear you.
Okay, good, good. Well, we're glad that you can join us regardless.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. So, just a reminder about the printed materials. We will need those for this afternoon's session, and a pen and paper, because a little bit more of a writing assignment, if you will, this afternoon. And so let's go ahead and get started. So much to do. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Here we go. And so here we are, session 3. Can you believe it? Came quickly. So the path to wellness, we're going to be looking at a model for multidimensional health today. And so let's begin with our here and now exercise, a way to become present and intentional along with one another. So we're going to be doing a little activity that's called joy spotting. So this is a really simple, easy, quick thing to do. It's similar to gratitude, but just a little bit different. And so what we want to do is to actually bring joy into our bodies and note how that feels for us. So joy spotting is a simple practice of tuning your attention to the joy in your surroundings. So joy spotting is easy, free, and can be done in just a few seconds. And the best part is that the more you do it, the more joy you're going to be starting to notice in your life that's surrounding you at all times. And I'm just going to, toss in that scientific part. So there's an emerging body of research that links links our surroundings, our environment, and our mental health, right? So we can have some control about on our surroundings, what we surround ourselves with in our homes, things like that. And so there's just that evidence that it's very important to be cognizant and intentional with what we surround ourselves with. So this little joy spotting activity starts with looking around your space. So I'd like you to do that now and see if there's something around you that gives you a little lift or a feeling of buoyancy. So hopefully you're not in a sterile medical office there, Dr. Jones, or something like that, hopefully. Okay, good. So we want to find something that brings us that feeling of lift. And this object that you're looking at, it can represent a time when you might have felt, completely free, or something that you're reminded of a time of lots of laughter, or maybe a vacation, something like that, or even just something beautiful that you love to look at. So when you find that thing, hopefully, has everybody found a thing to focus on? Really just notice the details of that object and think about what it is that this thing brings. Why does it bring joy to you? And how do you feel when you look at it? And really just let that sink in for you. Now, can you hold on to that feeling for a little bit and savor it? Really enjoy that. Let that permeate your body. Okay, I see a couple of smiles. Yes, so I'm hoping that process has allowed you to really bring in that joy of whatever that object reminds you of, that memory. And that's something that can uplift yourself, And so you can do this any day, all day long, right? And it's so simple, but very powerful, I think. So what I'd like to do is utilize our chat feature. And if you'd like to share just the object, what is it that brings your joy today? So open that chat feature, and just with that one or two words, tell us what brings you joy. Pictures of family, that's a really good one. I have some beautiful flowers in front of me that I love looking at over my computer screen. A little bit of nature. Yes, flower. Oh, zebras. Maybe there's a photo of zebras. A vision board, Charisse. Very cool. Yep. Okay. Something from Bangkok, picked up on a trip. Sculpture. Yes, art, pictures. Oh, of course, animals and pets. Wonderful. Yep. Okay. Very good. What's this, Rick? Coaching girls fast pitch softball. So that sounds like a fun activity that you do. Brings lots of joy in life. Not one thing, but books on two shelves, Susan says. So yes, maybe it's a larger piece or a collection of items. Good. So do you feel like that's something that you can incorporate into your life and maybe share with your group members? You can have them do that on Zoom meetings because they're in their homes. So that's something you could even do a show and tell. You could ask them to bring something and show it to everybody on the camera. That's easy to do when they're at home, or you can do something similar in a live situation as well. All right, everybody. So now that we are here and fully present, just going to show you this overview of our workshop, what we've done so far. So, this byline here, this by title, Cultivating Wellness in Our New Normal. So that wellness, that's what we're going to be looking at and focusing on today in our session 3. And some specifics with that. So conceptualizing the path forward. So how can we better understand the ways in which we can help our members to be healthier and enjoy a higher quality of life? So that's what we're really going to be focusing on in the beginning here. We're going to be talking about all about wellness and the role of support group leaders in particular, of cultivating wellness for our members. We've got that roundtable in the middle again with some new guests that we'll be having from our industry partners. We have a new topic and we'll go into our breakout rooms. And then at the latter part of our session today, we're going to be discussing some tools for you to use for yourselves, and also these tools that can be introduced to your group members. Either you can send them via email, or you can do even a special meeting surrounding these tools, and they're all about cultivating wellness. And then at the very end, we'll have Dr. Eric Jones help reflect on what we've learned today and answer any questions that you might have. Okay, is everybody good? Can we use our thermometer? Yes, our thermometer is like up. How is our energy right now? So this would be like maybe, and then this would be down. Good. So what's our thermometer? Yeah. It's hard to see. There you go, Fred. It's hard to see when you have a blurred background. All right. Okay, good. That's also another good check-in without even using words. You can use that thermometer with your group members just to see, quick at a glance how everyone's energy is doing. Okay, so I've got a fun little cartoon to start off with here. It's the one size fits all store, and there's a sale going on, but wait, who's outside? So we see all these different kinds of animals out there, and we realize that isn't really gonna work, is it? Yeah, so the one size fits all, it does not apply to Parkinson's, does it? So, it's known as the snowflake disease. Or if you've seen one person with Parkinson's, you've seen one person with Parkinson's. We know that this is not a reality for us in any of the movement disorders. And so I think that this cartoon here can also be compared to the application of wellness practices and strategies for people, because each person is going to be really needing something unique and different and in their approach to attaining the best version of themselves, because everyone has such different needs, right? So this is how I want to start off thinking about how are we going to get to that path of wellness. So where do we go from here? So what does that path even look like? What does that, where does it even begin? And so we see here with this little fun graphic that our support groups are made up of all kinds of people. People with Parkinson's, we've got care partners, we have people who are older and further along in their journey, we have middle-aged people, we have young onset, we've got different ethnic backgrounds, physical abilities, all of these different things. So how could we ever expect there to be just one single pathway to wellness that applies to everybody? So we really need to kind of approach this with a one size fits one mentality. Everyone needs their own pathway, and personalization is really the key, right? Let me see if I put that here. I think I have it somewhere else. Yes. So is this resonating for you all? Does this seeming to make sense in that we can't just have, we have a plan for making people healthy and well, and it's going to work for everyone? Is that making sense to you? That we need to really individualize, yes, and personalize things? Okay. I know it's it's session 3 and in the afternoon, so I just want to make sure you're with me and that we're awake. All righty. So to give this a little bit of context, I wanted to just throw this slide in here. So what are we really striving for anyway? So we're trying to live long, happy, and healthy lives, right? That's our goal in life. And so I've been doing just reading personally, and I've learned about these blue zones. Has anyone heard about the blue zones in the world? So this man, Dan Buettner, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. He's the founder of this research project. And this is him right here. And I just took a screenshot of one of his, I think it was a TED talk, maybe. So this graphic right here, this map of the world, it shows 5 different locations in the world that have been studied. And that is Loma Linda, California. It is in Costa Rica, Italy, Sardinia, Italy, Icaria, Greece, and I can't read the Japanese city, but those 5 cities were determined as the places where the happiest, healthiest, longest living people live. And so research was done on why that is. And so basically this graphic right here, this is what it all comes down to. Okay, so trying to give this wellness thing some context, it looks like having a purpose in your life, and personal and work, living a healthy lifestyle, which is like eating well, eating healthily, moving naturally. Yes. So moving out in the world and doing physical activities that are like our ancestors did. Yes, moving naturally, living in a healthy environment. Living free from chemicals and pollution, things like that. And then last but not least, I love this right here, right tribe, having the right people surrounding you. So one of the primary factors of wellness is who we surround ourselves with in our lives. So what is that we're doing right now? We are support group leaders, right? We are a huge part of that puzzle of people living longer, happier, healthier lives. Yes? I'm going to mute you. Oh, there you go. Okay. So hopefully that sets this up on why this is all so important, okay, and why the work that you do is such a large piece of the health of our support group members. Okay, so what is wellness anyway? Wellness is one of those words that it can become very vague and ambiguous, and people think it means different things, and so it's really all over the place. So I've taken a definition from the Global Wellness Institute, and they define wellness as the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health. Okay, excuse me. And these little words here at the top of the screen, these are the ones we really want to emphasize, underscore when it comes to wellness. It's active and dynamic. There's no sitting back and just letting things happen to you. That it's not a passive situation at all. It's all about balance. Yes. Holistic, thinking of the whole person, not just one aspect of health. Being positive, having a positive attitude, and being proactive about your choices and lifestyle decisions that you're making. And it's a very personal process, as we mentioned before. It needs to be individualized as opposed to the one size fits all. So from here, because I'm a little bit of a nerd, I looked up the history of wellness. Like, when did that concept even begin? And 5,000 years ago. So I won't go in depth, but I just think it's really interesting to think about how we got to where we are today. And so 5,000 years ago, the Ayurvedic system in India, and traditional Chinese medicine. So they had it figured out back then. They saw the whole person. They understood, it's not just dissecting down certain illnesses and looking at that only thing. It's the whole system that's important. And so, going through time, moving forward to 500 BC with Hippocrates, the Greek physician, he was the first physician in the Western world, they say, to focus on preventing sickness instead of simply treating it. So that's kind of an interesting idea, I thought. Now, zoom forward to the 1800s, and you're looking at homeopathy, osteopathy, chiropractic, and naturopathy. So those things came around in the 1800s. And then, fast forward again, organic farming in 1950s. In 1970, the world's first wellness center opened in California. Of course, it was California. And then from the 80s on into the 2000s, we have all sorts of wellness programs in workplaces. We've got fitness and spa industries popping up all over the place. And then in 2014, the Global Wellness Institute did some research, and they found that the wellness industry had, was worth $3.4 trillion. Which is pretty incredible. And that is 3.4 times larger than the worldwide pharmaceutical industry. So there's a lot of wellness going on in the world. And we need to incorporate a lot of that into our lives and into the way that we perceive the best way for us to move forward, for health purposes. So this is the Global Wellness Institute's health continuum, which I really thought is interesting. And it's one way to understand wellness is to consider health as a continuum. So on the left-hand side, you've got the illness or poor health, and then on the right side, it's optimal well-being, right? So over on the left-hand side here, if you're ill, if you're in poor health, you're really just looking at the medical paradigm. So you're just trying to feel better. It's all corrective. It's, reactive. It's treating and curing illness, very compartmentalized approach. And so if you're going this direction on this health continuum and going from the medical paradigm into the wellness paradigm, you're really looking at things more like thriving and maintaining, improving health, looking at the holistic system of someone as a human being and being preventative, not just corrective, really putting responsibility on the individuals for their own health and integrating lots of different approaches into their lives for optimal health. Okay, so again, this is all just putting us into that frame of mind of how is it that we can help our support group members be here instead of here. Yeah. So the National Wellness Institute, which is different than the global, I really have enjoyed their resources this past year. I've been on a lot of their webinars, and I've enjoyed a lot of the resources that they offer for free online. So your printouts today, you might notice, are mostly taken from their website, and I figure why reinvent the wheel, because they've done such a great job and they have wonderful resources that are available to everybody. So this is their fantastic 6 dimensions of wellness model, and you'll see these 6 dimensions here, which it's so interesting in my research with wellness and these multi-dimensional models. I've seen them range from 5 dimensions all the way up to 9 dimensions. And so this one in here in particular has 6, and I thought that this is very applicable and easy. It's easily accessible, I think, for people, but it encompasses everything. So I thought that we would use this one. Now, let us move to each of those 6 dimensions here. And I'm just going to take a second. Okay, got it. Yes. So this first dimension that we're going to talk about, I have broken it down into simple 4 bullets for each. So with occupational, it doesn't mean you have to have a full-time job. It can be a paid work. It can be volunteer work. I think support group leadership is absolutely part of your occupational life. You might be a care partner. That would be considered occupational. It can be full or part-time. And the important thing that we really want to look at is aligning our work, whether it be paid or volunteer, with a personal purpose, right? So making sure that you're doing something that you're passionate about, that you find inspiration and it's actually a good fit, so that you don't feel like you're just, completing tasks on a daily basis, that you actually care about what you're doing. How is this resonating with all of you as far as your work with support group leadership? I mean, I don't think you would be here unless you had passion for it. Does anyone want to share? Don't be shy. I know it's the afternoon. Crickets. I'm just going to be silent until someone speaks. Jennifer.
It's Karen.
Oh.
Gotta unmute yourself.
Let's go with Jennifer and then we'll do Karen.
Okay.
Phone connected. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we're gonna hear from Jennifer first and then you, Karen, okay?
Perfect.
Okay.
I was just going to say that from my perspective, I find the more knowledge and information I can gather and I learn about, the stronger I feel in my quest to, try and beat PD. And in doing so and gaining all that knowledge, I discovered I wanted to share that. And I enjoy teaching. I've taught in different aspects of my life throughout my career. I'm not a teacher, but I've taught in different aspects. So that's really how I got involved with facilitating, because I wanted to share my knowledge with other people. And I was just going to say, for me, it's an inspiration to learn more, to share more.
That's wonderful. And it sounds like you're a natural teacher too. So that's where the great fit comes in. So you discovered your unique qualities and what you can bring. And now you're sharing that and helping people. That's lovely. Thank you. Karen.
Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest. After my husband died of Parkinson's disease, and I'd taken care of him for many years, and there were a lot of good times, of course, I said I would never have another thing to do with Parkinson's disease. That was it for me. Then I moved to Davis, and after I knew there was a Parkinson's disease group here, but as I said, that's not going to be anything I'm interested in. But then I heard that the support group leader was leaving, and somebody asked me if I might be interested in leading it. And it was something that I knew that I could do because I am a school psychologist and also social worker. So I said, okay, I'll give this a try. And I have to admit, it has been one of the highlights of my life here to work with the people that I am working with now. So
that's amazing, Karen.
Wonderful.
That's how it went for me.
I wasn't sure what was going to come out of your mouth, but because you said I have to admit, and so that made me a little worried. But I can tell that you are inspired, and that's just so lovely to hear. And thank you for giving it a try. And now look at the people you're helping. Thank you so much.
I think Carolyn also wants to speak.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, COVID has not been a problem for me because of my volunteer involvement. I'm like Karen, my husband passed away a couple of years ago, but I became involved with PANC about that time. And it, interacting with members of the board and members of the community has really made COVID meaningful. Not the COVID part, but the engagement. And so it certainly helps me with my social, my spiritual, my emotional, my intellectual all of those aspects have been very enhanced because of volunteering.
That's so great. And just pointing out that something like a volunteer job might actually turn into a personal purpose, right? So it can go both ways. You know, the purpose can inform the position you look for, or you fall into something and then that can give you purpose. So I think that's really, really wonderful. Yes, Rachel.
I just wanted to add, doing a little bit of research alongside Shannon, there was something that struck me, and it kind of is exactly what these three ladies have been saying. But basically it says, traveling a path towards your occupational wellness, you'll contribute your unique gifts, skills, and talents to work that is both personally meaningful. So the work that you're doing has been meaningful to you and rewarding to you, and you're sharing your gift to with people, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rachel. We missed a couple of words. I think your internet's a little wonky.
Oh.
I think we got the overall sentiment there. So thank you. Yes. All right, great. Let's move. Oh, yes, Dr. Jones.
Yeah, I just wanted to contribute a little 2 cents here. I
Please.
think that with the whole personal purpose thing, I mean, when I first got involved with Parkinson's, I think I was a bit apprehensive as to, like, you know, what a medical student like myself could contribute to the community, or even if there was a community. And, you know, I don't think there's a big, like, young energy necessarily in the Parkinson's community. So I was, you know, sort of apprehensive, like I said. But I think once I became involved with PANC, I started realizing there are all these different opportunities to get involved. I mean, I planned like a 5K at my school with the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and like 80 of my classmates signed up. Got involved with a few like Parkinson support groups, and ended up bringing on some researchers at UC Davis and other medical schools that are involved with Parkinson's, you know, people my age. And so it's really inspirational to see there's other kind of people that are bringing that young energy to the Parkinson's community.
So awesome. And you're part of that. You know, you're bringing that inspiration too to your classmates and things like that. So thank you.
Thank you.
For that. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, let's move to the next dimension. Ooh, that sounds very woo-woo. All right, so physical. So this is an obvious one, but one that we should not leave off of our wheel, right? So maintaining healthy and nutritious diet, very important for all of us. Participating in regular exercise, we know that is extremely important in movement disorders. Seeking the proper medical care, you know, making sure that we're finding the best practitioners that we possibly can, and then educating ourselves on holistic practices. So not just going with the old school, you know, Western only, you know, I know some of us can cling to that, but we're realizing that there's this whole spectrum, and then luckily there are so many practitioners who do this crossover, so it's not just one or the other. They're really educating themselves on both sides, Eastern and Western, and that can only help us. Yeah, and so the more research that we do, the better. Okay, let's move to the social dimension. So social is also very heavily incorporated into our support groups. So how is it that we as individuals contribute to community? So either as support group leaders, or for our members, how they contribute to their own personal communities, whether it's you know, church, or other volunteering, or you know, working with school kids, or who knows. So it can be so many things, but just making sure that you're contributing to something, and to better society. Enhancing personal relationships, so making sure that we're working on being better communicators ourselves, and you know, we're doing the work on ourselves to enhance our intimate relationships that we have with our friends and family, and then how can we better interact with people we meet in public on a daily basis, and having that generosity and that care. We were doing our meditation earlier about caring for the world, and so how is it that we can be better in enhancing our relationships with other people? And I touched on it, but initiating better communication. So that takes work, you know, it doesn't come always completely naturally, right? Relationships are work, and communicating is work. And so just sticking to that. Preserving the natural environment. So social incorporates, you know, our surroundings, our environment. So taking responsibility to make sure that we take care of our earth, not just for ourselves and our current world, but also for everyone coming after us, and for all the plants and animals, right? So I think that's an important dimension.
I just want to bring back something that Fred said earlier today and yesterday about civility. And I think bringing civility to the forefront is also part of this social wellness. You know, this better communication and personal relationships and things like that. I think we should also remember how important it is.
Absolutely, great tie-in. Yes, civility, which is harder and harder to come by sometimes, but yes, we can do our own jobs and do that for ourselves and the people we love. Okay, so moving on to the intellectual dimension, and how is that important to your life? So expanding knowledge and skills. Who was that? Who was just talking about learning? It was Jennifer. Yes, so you love to learn, and then you love to share that with others. I think that's so wonderful. I consider myself kind of a lifelong learner, student, and I research really weird things sometimes because it's just fun and interesting. So can anyone else relate to that?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Sure.
the importance of you know, learning something completely outside of your typical you know, what you've studied your whole life or what you know. So many benefits to that. Susan, I see you've unmuted yourself.
I did, because what you're talking about reminds me of neuroplasticity. And I don't know if people have looked into that, but you know, it's the exploration of doing something different to kind of help your brain achieve things that you wouldn't normally be able to do, or finding different ways to move, and letting the brain kind of fill in the gaps. And I know that sounds really strange, but I've experienced that with Feldenkrais, and then that's something that other people may not know about either. But it's just really exploring how you move, and how sometimes we continue to hurt ourselves in the way we move. And with Parkinson's, you have to explore different avenues because your body doesn't work the same way it did before. So I think that's really exciting and an interesting challenge for me.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I think we're all in need of constantly working new parts of our brain and not just falling into those old ruts, because we know that sometimes those old ruts don't work very well. So how is it that we can think in new directions? And that requires doing something different, right? Who was it? Susan Yuba City was asking about the ukulele book that Dr. Adley talked about. So yeah, I've started the baritone ukulele last year, and it is hard. And I feel my brain frying when I'm trying to play those notes and trying to sing a different rhythm and melody at the same time. I mean, it is wow. And so anything that you can do to just try something completely different is just going to help your brain. And that's so important with movement disorders. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, intellectual, so sharing your gifts with others, which we've been talking about. pursuing personal interests, so that can, relate to these, but finding a new hobby, and then challenging. You can see this, correct? I'm getting kind of a strange. Okay, I got a little notification. That was weird. Challenging yourself with new endeavors. So these are all quite interrelated, aren't they? Okay, spiritual. So this can mean many different things to many different people. So overall, I think just developing an appreciation for life, whatever that might mean to you. So that could be, religion or not. Searching for meaning and purpose beyond just the here and now. Aligning your actions with your values. So what are your values? That's a whole other exercise, is to really sit down and think about what is it that you believe in. And then are you displaying those values in your actions, right? And so to really kind of call yourself to task on that. And attaining a worldview, as opposed to, the things that matter are just here right now. And no, there's a whole world that needs to be considered and cared about. Finally, we have, last but not least, our emotional dimension. And that is developing a greater self-awareness. So these are some of those, the self-work that I was mentioning a little bit earlier. And that can mean a lot of things. I take courses, I read books on these things. The ability to manage your feelings and stress, right? So we don't take our stress out on the wrong people at the wrong times, and just in having a greater sense of, control over that. I don't like the word control. Manage is better. Maintaining satisfying relationships. So that kind of crosses over with our social. But as we know, with the isolation that we keep hearing about, and we know about it personally, and how important it is for us to interact with others and connect with others, that is greatly important for our mental health and longevity, right? And then last, we have balance, independence, and connection. And so that's always an interesting road to travel, isn't that? So especially if you're a care partner and you have concerns about maybe aging parents, or you've got your spouse or a friend that you're helping to take care of. So how do you maintain your own sense of self, and also keep that strong connection? So these are all things that we need to be looking at on an ongoing basis. Okay, so is this clear for everybody? And I just wanted to point out that your printouts are going to have they're going to delve more deeply into these 6 dimensions. And so you have that in front of you. I wasn't going to put that on the slides because the print is so small. And again, there is so much print on here on these slides, so that when I share the slides with you, that it's all there for you. And easy to recall, I hope. And so we've got one last slide here. So this is, I want to just set the stage here for our roundtable that's about to begin. So how is it that we can apply this multidimensional model of these of the dimensions of wellness to our support groups? So I would like you to each ask yourselves these 3 important questions. So firstly, how can our support group help people reach their full potential? Yeah, so full potential is the operative word part of the sentence here. Secondly, can we better recognize and address the whole person by focusing on all 6 dimensions of wellness when it comes to our support group meetings? And lastly, can we help our members to affirm and activate their positive qualities and strengths while supporting their ever-changing needs? So how can we begin to think about the ways that we lead our support groups with these questions in mind? Yeah, and then this last bullet here, I would love us to really emphasize, remember, underscore how interconnected all of those dimensions are and how they all six, contribute to the overall health and well-being of us as people. Okay? So I just kind of wrapped that up fairly quickly, but hopefully this is making sense to you. How are we doing? Can we see a thermometer here? So yes, doing pretty good. This is really a lot, or no, I don't get it at all. I see some thumbs up. I see some, yeah, a little bit. So let's see, Kim, rather. Kim, I see a this. Would you like to unmute and let me know how you're feeling?
Well, when you talk about help people reach their full potential, each person's individual. So I don't know how a group can help the individuals unless they're vocalizing their concerns or where they're at. You did the thumbs up, the temperature check, and I was going to address that. You know, if we did a temperature check in a support group and everybody did thumbs up, that's great. But if you have a person that does thumbs down, do you just ignore that? Or do you address it? Do you delve into it? And that's kind of like this. What is their full potential? The group's potential or an individual's potential? And that's kind of what's throwing me off on this one.
Got it. Great question. Well, you know, when I saw you do this, that's why I called on you. I was like, oh, Kim, I see, what's going on? And so I did want to find out, like, you know, and so I did want to address it. And so I think it is a way, if somebody's down, like you can see, and maybe you don't want to address it right there, right then, but maybe after the meeting, and you can spend a little extra time with them, something like that. So you just, of course, we can't say exactly what to do. Each instance is different, but I absolutely think that it can be addressed and should be. And full potential, you know how I talked about at the beginning today, and we had that cartoon of the one size fits all store and how it doesn't fit all. And so this is all about personalization. So what you're asking, Kim, is perfect as we go into the roundtable. We are going to discuss in groups. We're going to have 6 groups, and we're going to have each group take one of the dimensions and delve into it a little bit. And what we want to talk about is that full potential is about the potential of each of the members as individuals. So how can you as support group leaders provide resources, discussion topics, speakers to inform each of these 6 dimensions, but they can apply it and use that information in a way that makes sense for them, as opposed to everyone needs to do, you know, this regimen, you know, that doesn't work, right? But we want to give as much education, information, and support as possible to allow for the full potential to come up from it for each of those people. Does that make sense? A little bit more, hopefully. Yeah, I see Fred's hand has been up, and then we'll go to Carolyn.
Yeah, in response to Kim, it depends on the group. If you have a small group who know each other and feel friendly, who pretty much know each other and have met for a while, I think everybody would want to, if somebody's feeling down, be willing to take time to share and ask them, you know, would you want to share with us what's going on? If you have a large group like yours, Kim, where you probably have a lot of people who don't know each other that well, the friends, that's a whole different situation, and it would be much more difficult for an individual to share with a whole big group like that. So it depends on the group dynamics. That's all I could say.
Thank you, Fred. Carolyn?
I think when we're talking about full potential, we need to be realistic. With Parkinson's, you lose your ability to walk, you lose your ability to use the computer, you lose your ability to play the piano, you lose your ability to read, you use just all of these things are disappearing from your life. because as the PD progresses. And so I think we need to, instead of saying get more brilliant and all the rest, we need to think, what can we do now that this is gone? And I think it needs to be a little more nuanced.
Mm-hmm. With the language.
Yeah.
I could see that for sure. Thank you for bringing that up. I know our programs, what we attempt to do at PMD Alliance is to help people live their lives more fully. We use that phrase. And maybe that's maybe a better way to put it instead of full potential, because there can be some, words, like we were saying, words matter. And so we don't want people to be discouraged by seeing something like that, like thinking about who they were a year ago or 5 years ago, something like that. So thank you for bringing that up. And Maureen, I see your hand up.
I'm having a little trouble with this. I can definitely see sharing this concept with people to work on their own if they want to, sharing the dimensions and the areas of their lives to focus on to and enhance their lives. But I am not a therapist. I don't see my role as the group leader as trying to make this happen for people.
I see. So I don't think that we should put that sort of pressure on ourselves, like of being, a therapist. I totally get that. I think informing and educating, giving resources for, support structures outside of the support group are important, and just bringing awareness to these topics. For people, just to like, oh yeah, I haven't really paid attention to that dimension in a while. Maybe I should, take some, effort and extra energy to look into the intellectual aspect of my life. Maybe I should read a book. Maybe I should watch a documentary, something like that. So it doesn't have to be, so much pressure on you as support group leaders. Is that helpful, Maureen?
Well, I think, as I said, I could certainly see sort of sharing all these sharing the information.
Mm-hmm.
And,
sure.
And even maybe sharing what you just suggested, that for some of us, it might be worthwhile looking at these aspects of our lives and seeing where we could, give ourselves a boost by doing, but I'd want to be pretty careful about that. I'm no medical being, no psychology training, and I don't want to be intrusive.
Definitely. I understand that completely. And just as a small example, before we need to move on to our roundtable discussion, we have a few of our industry partner reps who have joined us. So welcome. We'll be joining you in a second and introducing you. So you remember Maureen, I don't know if you were on earlier today. Were you with us with Dr. Egley? Okay, it was just maybe yesterday. Okay, so Dr. Egley, for instance, maybe you could have a psychologist or a psychiatrist come be a guest speaker.
That would be great.
So that is what I'm kind of getting at, and providing that. So you're using outside resources who have the expertise to deal with this or to talk about some of these things. It's not like we're asking you to, okay, now you're going to be a social worker today, and you need to have that skill set. So, I think that our roundtable discussion is going to be really informative for some of these questions. Great. Okay. All right. So we are going to move forward to our roundtable now. So welcome to our industry partner reps. I see we have Renetta, we have Ed, and Thurman. Am I missing anyone else who's joined us? No, I think those are the only three. So, okay, I am going to stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. And for our reps who are joining us today, welcome. This is Parkinson Association of Northern California. Most of us are from this area, or they are, I'm not. They're support group leaders in that region. We have a couple of outliers. And so we are inviting you to take part in this roundtable with us. We're going to have a discussion topic of the day and go into breakout rooms, which we'd love to have you participate in. And the point is just to have you meet each other and put faces to names. And then in the future, I'm going to provide your contact information as reps to the support group leaders so they can be in touch with you if they would like to have some informational sessions with their group. So hopefully that's making sense. Okay, so why don't we have Thurman. Hi, Thurman. Good to see you.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi there.
Good to see you.
Would you like to begin by introducing yourself and say a little bit about your company just in a couple of minutes?
Sure. I'll be brief. My name is Thurman Simmons, so I'm the Market Development Manager for Quarter Therapeutics. So that title really means in this particular setting is I like to figure out what support groups need and see if I can bridge that gap for you all. And what do I mean by need? Like as far as resources, education, anything that industry can provide that we are allowed to, and make that connection with you all. And I know we can always do a better job with that. I know I've worked with Shannon, I've worked with Sarah and the whole PMD Alliance to try to provide that. But hearing from you all, as you guys are like the boots on the ground, is also great. So Quarter Therapeutics is a very small biotech company, and we promote basically two drugs. One for Parkinson's, which is called Embrija, which is an inhaled version of levodopa for off episodes or off periods, or when Parkinson's symptoms return. And another product called Empira, which is an MS product, which is for walking and mobility.
Thank you, Thurman. So glad to have you here today.
Well, glad to be here.
All right. I see Ed is unmuted. So why don't we go to Ed next?
Sure.
Hi there.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Ed Hunter. I'm with AbbVie Neuroscience. I am what they call a regional account executive. I cover 9 Western states, working primarily with larger health systems, and to some extent, some smaller hospitals with our product, which is Duopa. Duopa is for patients with advanced Parkinson's disease. It's the medication that uses the pump and tubing to bypass the stomach and get right to the small intestine. And I spend a little time, I've done some work with PANC, and will continue to work with organizations like PANC and advocacy groups, trying to get more and more patients with Parkinson's into different support groups.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ed. Appreciate you
Thank
being
you for
here.
having me.
All right, Renetta, nice to have you.
Hello, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Renetta Mosley, and I am with Acadia Pharmaceuticals. I am the advocacy and industry relations liaison for the West region. So it's my first time being on the call. So really glad to be here and to be a part of the conversation. Acadia actually has a medication for Parkinson's related psychosis, which is hallucinations and delusions that may come along during the later stages. It's called pimavanserin or Nuplazid. That's our medication. I am on the advocacy side, so I really talk about helping to educate the community advocacy organizations about the awareness of hallucinations and delusions that can come as a result of living with Parkinson's. So I work with organizations just to support them in making sure that they are getting the type of education and resources and outreach that they are looking for to connect with the community.
Excellent. Thank you for being here, Renetta.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so hopefully the three of you are good to go with joining us in our breakout sessions. It'd be awesome to get your input. So I am going to share my screen one more time so that we can all see what we are going to discuss today. All righty. Okay, so are we seeing this? Hopefully so. So our roundtable discussion. So we're going to be generating ideas. Okay, so each of our 6 breakout rooms is going to have one of the dimensions from the wheel, right? And so you're going to be generating ideas for discussion topics, guest speakers that you might have come talk to your group, or other resources to help explore during your meetings to help members not reach their full potential, but to live their lives more fully. We're going to change that language. All right, so I'm going to put that in the chat. Boom. So you can see that once you are in your rooms. And Kelly has been doing her magic and setting up the breakout rooms. And so let me see, I'm going to stop sharing so I can now see what the breakout rooms look like. No, I can't see them because we haven't gone there yet. So, okay, Kelly, can you help, because they're not going to know what their topic is once they get sent. So as far as like give maybe 2 people from group number 1 and then say what their dimension might be.
Sure thing. Room number 1, we have Charlene, Fred, and Susan from Yuba City. Occupational will be your dimension. In room 2, we have Eric Jones, Jim Morrison, Morris, and Maureen, and your dimension is physical. And then in room 3, we've got Betty, Colette, Renetta, and Rick, and you are social. And then room 4, Ed, Jennifer, Susan Curry, Susan Lopez, and your dimension is intellectual. And then room 5, Judy, Kim, Myron, and Thurman, and you've got spiritual. And then last but not least, room 6, we have Carolyn, Charisse, and Karen, and you have emotional dimension.
Excellent, thank you. What I'm going to do is share my screen one more time. And so for the reps who may have come in a little bit late, I'm just going to show one of the slides that has all of the 6 dimensions of wellness on there. So find whatever dimension you were assigned. And so look at those bullets, and what we're trying to do is think of different kinds of support group meeting topics or speakers who could help enrich that aspect of our support group members' lives, or understanding or journey, if you will. So hopefully that's making sense. I also wanted to point out in your printed materials, everyone, from our reference guide, there is a listing of discussion topics and a listing of speaker topics, and those can help kind of spark some ideas for you. But I'd like you to start to make a list. So when we go into our breakout rooms, you're going to choose a leader to take notes, just as we have in our previous roundtables, and you can report back to the main group. Is this clear to everybody? I think this will be fun. This will be a real experiment. All righty. So we're going to have about, oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Rachel. She put in the chat the different rooms and topics, or not topics, but dimensions rather. So I'm going to give you about 15 or so minutes to discuss this, so you can just make a list. All righty. I'll give you halfway notice, and we will see you on the other side, everyone. Enjoy.
All right.
Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that was a nice breakout session that you've had. Okay, I think we all made it. It was too fast, I know.
Fast.
It's crazy. We have a 2.5-hour session, and it's hard to get it all in. So we are going to go group by group, and we've got Rachel and Kelly taking notes, so that can be provided to you after the workshop. So let us hear from room number 1 first, which had Charlene, Fred, and Susan in Yuba City, and their dimension was occupational. And I'm curious, because we've not done this before, if anyone noticed when you were in your breakout room, could you see the title of your breakout? Like, could you see the words occupational or physical? Nothing like that? Okay.
I wasn't looking
Karen
for it.
said
So.
yes.
Karen said yes? She's
Yeah.
muted though.
You're muted. You're muted.
You're muted. We can't hear you, Karen.
Can't hear you,
Okay,
Karen.
I quickly, I'll just say, maybe it wasn't on the screen. Maybe it was because I wrote down those categories. So I had them in front of me on my paper.
Maybe you were just pretending to see.
It was on your screen. Jim, I see. Did you notice, Jim?
No, I didn't notice.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
I don't think it was there.
Okay. Yes, I was curious. We have them labeled on our back end so we can see, but we weren't sure if you would be able to. Anyway.
At the very beginning, it showed on the screen. At the very beginning.
Oh, as you went in?
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
Got to be quick. Like flashcards. Okay, so we've got room number 1 who is occupational. Who would love to talk to us about that dimension?
I got voluntold that it was my option, my opportunity.
All right, Charlene.
So, we talked a little bit about our demographic too, and that a lot of our folks tend to either have left their jobs because of their Parkinson's or at the age where we're retired and have Parkinson's along with that. So, some of the things that would go with any kind of retirement group could also be useful for our teams, like any kind of volunteer opportunities. Susan was talking about, she volunteers at a donation store, where they sell used items for a nonprofit. We have potentially things like in the way of getting to know other people, getting to know the members as individuals, about sharing things about their hobbies, show and tell kinds of things about what their interests are, and maybe exercising, some of their other dimensions by developing a subgroup or an extracurricular group, or inviting some of, our group into their current groups to explore more of those other opportunities, like maybe learning a new skill or developing something they're already interested in, trying new hobbies like art or music. We also talked about couple of others more specific topics maybe were like how to be a grandparent. You know, if we're at that age, an aunt or an uncle or grandparent, and navigating that with their current situations, and some financial you know, development issues and end of life kind of things might also go along with that. You know, making yourself financially secure and understanding kind of what those things are about.
I see. So what kind of guest speakers might you have for the financial part?
Well, we talked a little bit about Britney Spears and all her troubles.
Got it. Yes.
Some, you know, new or some legal terms that we're all learning about that we hadn't before.
Yeah,
So yeah, so investments, you know, planning, attorneys, that kind of thing might.
Absolutely.
be
Yes.
in that area.
And I just wanted to mention in some of the other models I've seen that have more like 7, 8, or 9 dimensions, financial sometimes is its own dimension. So you can, you know, wrap financial into occupational. That's a really obvious and yeah, place to put it. Great.
Did I miss
Excellent.
anything, Fred or Susan?
I was just mentioning that, you know, some people after they've had their diagnosis and had to stop their previous job, developed other hobbies that actually became another job for them. So a physician who stopped her being a physician and started taking up oil painting, and now she has an oil painting sort of business, and she has a blog on that. A man back in New England who was, I think, really like a vice president of a Dow or something like that, he was getting older anyway, but he retired voluntarily, and he took up photography. He became a really very famous photographer in his area, and had, you know, a really high-end studio in where he was at. So your life is not necessarily over if you have Parkinson's, and anything you can do to develop all these other things can keep your life fulfilling. So that's and encouraging everybody in your support group to be able to do those things that can make their life fulfilling, whatever it is.
Well said, Fred and Charlene. Thank you. Anything more from Susan before we move on? No. Okay, thank you. Good. All right, occupational check.
Just to point out, Susan Lopez put in the chat that they had speakers on wills and trusts. So that's, you know, one of the other ideas, those types of elder law, financial planning type speakers.
Great. Good point.
Yeah, we will have at some point on our website a whole series of resources for that.
Perfect. And then Maureen just said that she had a speaker from the DA's office on fraud. All great. Yeah, many ideas that can fall into that bucket, that occupational bucket. Let's move to room number 2, which is, I can't see it at the moment, physical, who is Dr. Jones, Jim, and Maureen.
Okay, Jim and I agreed that we had a pretty easy topic, since so much of our support group conversations tends to be about the different physical activities, you know, the options that are available to us. We asked, let's see, you know, one thing that I don't think we've done in our group, but I really like the idea, and I think Jim mentioned this. In fact, I'm sure it was Jim. It said, ask members to share what they do in order to try to get enough physical activity. And rather than just be telling them all the time what they should be doing, you know, just ask, you know, what are you already doing? We might get ideas that we haven't thought of that would work for us, you know. Jim also mentioned different types of dancing. One of the things that's available in our areas is Dance for Parkinson's programs developed by David Rosenthal, I think his name is. And we have a number of dance instructors trained by him. And of course, they've had to stop meeting in person in the past year and a half, but they've been meeting on Zoom. And it's, you know, it can be a very good, especially social right now, experience for people who are locked in.
Absolutely.
Sing-alongs. The suggestion was having music playing of some kind, you know, when people walk into the room, and occasionally having sing-alongs, maybe during the holiday season. Speakers, speech therapists, physical therapists, water therapy people, delay the disease representatives. I'm drawing a complete blank, all kinds of, the Parkinson's dance, we've had Parkinson's dance coach come and talk to us. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things we can expose members to. Eric mentioned that Eric is halfway through his medical training as a rehab doctor. And I'm not sure, Eric, is that a new specialty?
Specialty itself is about 15, 20 years old at least. But Parkinson's with rehab is a very new up and coming field. There's only like one program in it in the nation. It's at Northwestern. That's where I got to spend time in the clinic.
Okay, I thought, yeah, because we haven't heard of that much around here, and I think it's wonderful. And Eric also said that, you know, that he and a couple of colleagues might be available to come to our groups and, you know, share what that's all about. The other thing with physical is, although of course we can't refer doctors, we're always encouraging people, especially new people, to try to get connected to a movement disorder specialist, and who are few and far between in the Lodi-Stockton area. I mean, a number of our members commute to the Bay Area or to Sacramento to have access to such a specialist. And but we do try to at least share their names, you know, and you know, connect them, not connect them, but let people realize that if you're in the Sutter Health System, for example, here are some names of movement disorder specialists. And or if you're with Kaiser, you know, so that people at least can try, you know, to make that connection.
Absolutely. Very valuable information.
And I also shared one fun activity we did that was, it was physical, although that wasn't our intent. We just picked a topic, and for the life of me, I cannot remember what it was. And we had a big beach ball, and we just threw it, and whoever caught it was expected to say something on the topic and then throw the beach ball to somebody else. And it just went around the room like that. And it was just so much fun.
Great idea.
I mean, it wasn't much movement, but it was, you know, definitely, and certainly a lot of laughter.
Keeps people on their toes, right? They don't want to get bonked in the head with a beach ball. So that keeps people awake. That's great.
Anything else, Jim or Eric?
Well, there was mention of the innovation of it, Zoom of choir singing, choir chorus.
Oh, that's right. Yes, the Zoom choir singing.
Yeah, and all the rhythm participation with the speaker who brought her instruments, drumsticks and washboards, and passed them out, and there was a lot of different sound that the support group could make.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah.
March to those that would be able.
That's great. Yeah, like Rachel said in the chat, it sounds like a lot of play, like we were talking about earlier today, and how important that is. So I think the physical is the most obvious of the dimensions when it comes to play. So really play that up when you're bringing in speakers and doing discussions and things like that. Really utilize that play.
And
Okay.
the PANC board is also planning the Cancel Out Parkinson's 5K. It's going to be this fall, so I'm sure we'll be sending out information to all of you about that. But that's another great way to get involved in the community, do some physical activity. There's a walk and a run aspect, so look forward to that. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Thanks for that info. All righty, let's move forward to room number 3, which was the social dimension. Betty, Colette, Renetta, and Rick, please.
Yes, so I was the designated note taker for the group.
Thank you.
So in case I missed something, team, please add to it. But we talked a lot about ways in enhancing personal relationships and establishing better communication, and how important, just how we did the breakout rooms. And sometimes it's great to just break out into smaller groups because it just allows people to share and have more comfortable space where it allows for them to do that. We talked about the value of speakers and being careful about the types of speakers that you bring in. And is it possible to maybe hear from them before they come in? Because sometimes the way that they deliver may not be as good. So thinking about speakers and having some communication with them to understand what they will be talking about. Also, in terms of better communication, just to think about how you may present topics or have topics of interest, and some of them may or may not be of interest to all participants. So then trying to figure out how you help them to see the value in that conversation, but also helping them to understand that this is a part of community, that the more information you know, the more you can contribute to the community. We also talked about being able to meet the diverse needs of participants within the groups, and whether that is having a wide range of ages, having different racial groups, or having participants who may identify with LGBTQ communities. And so how do you meet the diverse needs? And one of the discussions we had was to maybe have a speaker that talks about compassionate care that encompasses all of those groups, so that they can identify themselves within that conversation without pinpointing particular communities or populations that it makes them feel uncomfortable because it may not be applicable to everyone. So compassionate care was one. And then we talked about making sure that we're using Facebook in different ways to reach out to maybe subgroups of people who want to talk about a particular issue. And in a nutshell, I think I gathered that. Colette, Mike, Betty, did I miss anything?
You did a great job, Renetta. You did cover everything that we discussed.
Great. Thank you, group number 3. That was awesome. Good reporting back, Renetta. Let's go to room number 4, intellectual dimension. Ed, Jennifer, Susan Curry, and Susan in Sacramento.
Great. So I too was voluntold to take notes and represent. So it seems like we focused mostly in the beginning around technology and just keeping technology relevant, and also trying to maximize technology today. And it can be done. I mean, you think of Zoom just itself, you can have hundreds of people on Zoom and then break out into smaller rooms. And that technology is really good. It can be used in so many ways, but it's hard to keep up with technology, right? It just, in so many ways, it seems to be passing us by, but we just have to keep technology relevant. And it's not just Zoom too. It's like there's so many resources online for us to go to, whether it's some of the larger organizations or even, you know, within PANC and the website that we have and some of the curated resources that are listed there. There's just so much information online, and technology is just, it's there, it's available, and it's something we just need to keep up with. We talked a little bit about what supports the intellectual dimension. We talked a little bit about nutrition and exercise, and we have to get those right in order to just really have the energy to continue to learn, right? We talked about the information you present to, and it's like less of a focus on coping and more information on really living, but that was really good. When you think of intellectual too, I thought this comment was really good. It's always beginning the group on a positive note and ending on a positive note, and just that positivity and how that really reinforces learning. Another one was a great idea of just this, and I think we all do it, is just creating a safe space for people to learn at their own pace, because we all learn different, you know, different rates, different paces. Another thing that just really brings it out in individuals themselves was just getting individuals to share more and speak up more about what they're passionate about and presenting that to the group itself. I think that's good for the individual as well as the group. And then lastly, I think we spent some time on just information beyond Parkinson's, and then broadening the content for our groups, broadening the information that we're disseminating, and broadening the different types of speakers we're bringing into the groups. I thought that was very helpful. I think that was it, if I missed anything.
Very good, Ed. Anyone else from group 4 want to add anything? Yeah, that technology piece. And earlier today, we were talking about employing some of our younger family members, teenagers, kids, if you will, who are really more up to speed than most of us, and employing them to help us with teaching Zoom or teaching certain aspects of computer literacy, blah, blah, blah. So absolutely thinking about who can you call on to help educate your group on these technological matters. That's a big one. Yes, thank you. Good. Fred, I see your hand is raised.
Yes. Did you guys talk about brain games at all, and talk about, nobody talked in physical about this, but about how to maintain your whole body function, your brain function, with all the nutrition stuff that you need to do as well?
We just touched on it. I don't think we got in depth on that, but that's certainly a big part of it. As researching brain health, I'm reading Sanjay Gupta's book right now. It's called, what's it called? Keep Sharp. So it's mostly focused on Alzheimer's, but he talks about all the components that contribute to a healthy brain, and what you can do on a personal level to maintain that health and to stretch your boundaries of thinking, and to exercise your brain. And that's the best way. It's to nurture thinking and trying different things so that your brain, again, is expanding, or at least, able to handle different situations when sometimes parts of the brain aren't working quite right. So he touches on nutrition and physical activity and social things, and it's quite good.
It's called Keep Sharp, Susan?
Keep Sharp. I'll put it in the chat.
Excellent. Yes. So brain games, I think there are applications on your phone that you can play, and on your computer, as far as I understand. You can even do games with your groups in person to help with memory, which are really fun. I played one on a car ride recently with a group the other day, called the association game. And it was a good one. Kept you on your toes. So yes, brain games are a great idea there for the intellectual dimension. Fred.
Yeah, let me put two books in the chat that are specifically toward Alzheimer's, but almost everything in the books you can apply toward Parkinson's as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, resources in the chat are awesome. Jennifer, I saw that you had unmuted. Would you like to say something?
No, I was just going to say that Susan and I had talked about the fact that we have a broad range of subjects that we look at sharing and discussing with our groups and finding out what they want. And I think definitely brain health is one of them, and what we can do to make ourselves physically and mentally stronger. So I think we seem to be sort of doing pretty good on that, on the whole picture, if you like, and putting it all together. And I do agree with Dr. Fred. It's very important to make sure you include the brain in that picture.
Yes, yes. Lovely, thank you. Rick has a question about what was the program at Northwestern University. I'm not sure. I didn't catch that. Does anyone have an answer for that question? Is that
It was the program that Dr. Jones was in.
Oh, okay.
So I think it was a specific question to him.
I see.
Yeah, no, I can talk about it real quick.
Good, yes.
So I am interested in the field of physical medicine and rehabilitation. There's like neurology, and then there's physical medicine and rehab, two different doctors essentially. And the program at Northwestern is a program specifically focused on rehab for Parkinson's. So it's an entire clinic floor with rehab doctors, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, and they all come together for like a 1-2 hour visit for a Parkinson's patient and collaborate on how we can best help them. And yeah, it's a very new program. It's the only program of its kind in the nation right now, but we're trying to really expand and get rehab on the map with Parkinson's.
Good. Awesome.
Very good.
Thank you. Great. Okay, let's move forward, please, to room number 5, which dealt with the spiritual dimension. Judy, Kim, Myron, and Thurman.
That would be my turn, I guess.
Kim.
I actually volunteered because I bailed on it last time. So anyway, we talked about a little bit about it, vocalize it. Spiritual is pretty hard. It's a hard topic for everybody to swallow and discuss. Some of the speakers we talked about, maybe a psychologist, a social worker, but neither one of those specific to PD, and possibly take age related into that concept about what age your group is at. If they're young onset, it might be a little bit different than an older onset group. And also a physical therapist, an occupational therapist. Occupational therapy we forget about, Myron has mentioned, which is true. We always think about occupational therapists being, get you back to work, but it also helps you keep your independence so you can have a meaningful life and become all that you can be and have purpose. Nurse practitioners can kind of align what makes that person have meaning and have purpose. So those three are where we came from. Palliative care, having somebody to guide you on that walk is also very important in aligning and making life meaningful and purposeful for you. Looking at what is possible. We talked about that. You mentioned, Shannon, yesterday, having a grateful jar, looking at the glass half full as opposed to half empty, keeping your well-being and all of that on the positive side so you can go forward and have more meaning and purpose. Because if you don't have those things, you become isolated and lonely and you can't progress like you would want to. Judy mentioned something that I thought was really good. How to maintain life as life is deteriorating. And I equated it to kind of, it's the elephant in the room. We never want to talk about that. Myron said, my kids don't want to know, that I might die, or what would that look like? And Judy said, it's the opportunity to talk about life changes and end of life decisions. So taking that the full gamut around. Myron had mentioned that he read a couple of books. I wrote them down because Mark had mentioned yesterday that he has a lending library, and I'm all over that. But Myron said that the books kind of gave him, and Myron, correct me if I'm wrong, that the decisions you make are your decisions, not where people tell you what you should do. You have to make those decisions. And he read, the first book he read was Being Mortal. The other one he read after that, someone told him, if you've read that one, you need to read this one. And the other one, It's Okay to Die. And then the one, Life After Diagnosis. They're all by different physicians. One I think was a surgeon, one was an ER doctor. I don't remember what the other one was, but he said in reading those, they all come from different perspectives and help you make those, you know, deal with life changes. Myron had read these books after his wife passed, and I'm assuming they were helpful because he would not have mentioned them otherwise. But that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of what we said. Myron, Thurman, Judy, did I miss anything? No. Myron gave me a thumbs up. That's good. I didn't miss anything.
Well,
So.
Yep.
Wonderful. That was great. Thank you, room number 5, and Kim, spokesperson. Let's do, the final room has whittled down to 2 people. I think we had a couple of folks who had to get off a little early today. So room number 6 was emotional dimension, and that was Carolyn and Karen at this point.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So Cherie stayed with us for about 2/3 of the way, and so we had some input from her. And I'm sorry she had to leave, but she actually left a bit in the beginning also because she had to give her husband the medication that he needed. So she wasn't in on the whole conversation, but we surely enjoyed hearing from her. So Carolyn and I, both of us had husbands with Parkinson's disease who have already died. And so we were actually a good pair and found a lot of, and found it easy to talk with one another, even though we don't really know each other. And one thing we agreed on right in the beginning was that the category of emotional, I'm just going to quickly read just 3 of the items. Develop greater self-awareness, ability to manage feelings, and maintain satisfying relationships doesn't apply to people with Parkinson's disease after a certain point. And it was both so clear to us. They're very good concepts in the beginning of the disease, even midway through. But you get to a point where my husband couldn't manage his own feelings, and it didn't matter. It only mattered how I responded to him, how I could take care of him through that, I suppose, and not take it personally. Because that's just like one loses their ability to do certain physical things. Towards the end, they also lose the ability to manage these kinds of feelings, I would say. So both of our husbands had hallucinations and delusions. And so that was something that we discussed. How were we able to respond to those things? Therese said about her husband that he had Parkinson's disease for 20 years, but he could still eat, talk, walk, and play golf. And he was actually in fairly good shape, but she did say that more recently he had been more failing in more of these areas, and especially failing in friendships. And I think that is my observation for a lot of Parkinson's patients is it's really hard to maintain the friendships that one had earlier. And I sometimes felt badly that some of my husband's best friends didn't make more of an effort to sort of make more contact. So I think Carolyn said the same thing. So that's part of the difficulty at the end. And that's pretty much a summary, but I would like to just give you some brief information. If any of you have long-term care insurance, and maybe you have it for your husband also as well as for yourself, if you have Parkinson's disease and it has been diagnosed, it is very easy, relatively easy to start the care. We've discussed in our group, and I've talked with other people who are applying with different conditions. It's much harder to get it started. It seems like Parkinson's disease is a label that the long-term care insurance agencies respond to quickly. So that's just a heads up for people who might have that assistance in their back pocket.
Thank you.
all.
And that is very important because the whole industry is changing. And we were offered a large check in place of going on with paying per year.
Oh,
But
I
we
didn't know that, Susan. Really? Yeah.
Anyway, that's very useful.
I wouldn't take that large check instead of keeping up the payments, but
yeah,
I don't know the details of what you're talking about. So yeah.
Well, I'll tell you sometime. I don't want to go into it now.
No, we'll get together and talk about it. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow, good information, and thank you for kind of exposing that, just the different lenses that you can look at the emotional dimension through, depending on whether you're a care partner or if you are someone living with the movement disorder. Very different, right?
Yeah, very different.
And then trying to negotiate that as well. And so maybe thinking about having counselors, grief counselors, or people in that field come and talk to your groups as well on coping and dealing with some of these difficult issues as the movement disorder progresses.
Or seek out a personal counselor for yourself. As I said, at Kaiser in Oakland, I had the most wonderful person who helped me, and it was a direct referral from the medical doctor who was treating my husband.
Really good point. Yes, Kim.
So, as Karen said, which is so true, that, friends stop coming around, they stop being involved. And I've done oncology in my background, and it's such a true statement for all disease processes as they advance. And I've always told people, and in my group, your friends want to be helpful. They really do. They just don't know how all the time. And I believe asking them helps them and helps yourself say, it would be helpful for you to come over once a week and spend time. People just forget. They just don't get it. And it's not, some of them will do that and some won't do that. And the ones that won't, they're probably just not mentally capable of it. And I know with oncology, people come into two different places. They'll tell that person, oh, I had a friend that had cancer and they did XYZ, and that's not all helpful. Or I had this. So identifying what your friends are capable of and asking for that, because they really want to be helpful. I believe that friends want to be helpful. They just don't know how and they don't know when. But I understand completely what you're saying, Karen, because it is more the norm for people's friends to start fading away than the norm.
Yeah.
And that's just sad in itself.
Thank you, Kim, for those suggestions. Thank you.
Yeah, that is great. And it's also another it just emphasizes the importance of our support groups too, because we all have the Parkinson's or the movement disorder. And so we can then have these new friends and people who get it and who are with you on the journey, as opposed to people who you might have known beforehand and they just, they tend to fall off. So support groups are so great for that. Well, everybody, hopefully you got some good ideas from this roundtable. Rachel and Kelly have taken notes, and so we will provide those to you in my follow-up email next week. But I just want to say thank you so much to our three guests that we had, Ed and Thurman and Renetta. There you are. Everyone moved around. And so, yes, if you can, what I'm going to do, I don't know if I have everyone's direct email address. So if you could each, I have Renetta for sure, but Thurman and Ed, just in case, if you could please send me your contact information to my email address that I just put in the chat, and that way I can put your info on our contact sheet when I send it out to the support group leaders, so they can be in touch with you. Okay, well, thank you to Renetta, Thurman, and Ed, and so I hope you have a good rest of your weekend, and we're going to continue on with our program now. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, everybody. How about a 2 or 3 minute stretch break? Need to get up out of your chairs. I know I do. So let's do 4:06. 4:06. We'll come back. Okay, everyone, if you are out there, we are going to resume here in a minute or some seconds. Running short on time again. So much to say and share, which is all good. Okay, most faces are back. All righty, just missing a couple. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and begin, and those still gone can join us when they're able. So I am going to share my screen again for some final slides. All righty, here we go. Okay, so how is it that we're actually going to employ this wellness model? Miss Rachel, did you want to discuss the first bullet for us?
Sure. So as we've discussed before, you guys to be on the right track and doing this already. Kind of having the idea of getting a survey out to your group, maybe calling all of the folks in your group before you guys come back and discuss what they want to cover about each of these dimensions. Maybe kind of have one of those polls on your Zoom call when you get back about the dimensions. But getting an idea from your group members about each of the, I'm sorry, my internet's unstable. Each of the dimensions gives them sort of stake in the game, and you know what they want to discuss, and some people might have the same thoughts, but having different ideas surface from doing a survey, I think could be very helpful.
Excellent. Okay. Yes, so just determining from your group, what is it that they want from each of those 6 dimensions that should be covered. And then, like, on a calendar, I think it was Fred who, yeah, he put in the chat. So maybe we can look at each of these dimensions and figure out how to cover these 6 kinds of topics over the course of the year. So that's exactly what we're thinking about, is how can you try to make sure that you're covering the whole person, you know, each of those dimensions in a certain amount of time. So a monthly deep dive. So depending on how many meetings you hold per month, if it's only one, then it's not too deep of a dive. But some groups are meeting once a week. And so if you met once a week on Zoom, or 3 times on Zoom, 1 in person, whatever it is that you're doing, you could potentially do several in a row on one particular dimension. You can highlight the relevant speakers, discussion topics, videos, articles, books that we've talked about, etc. And then you know, do that for, you know, for 6 months straight, a different dimension, and then repeat it, start over again. So that's one way of approaching this. Or it can be just a little bit more casual, a little bit more free and loose, and each meeting you can focus on a different dimension, but just making sure that over the course of the year, you're intentionally hitting on those different dimensions, and making sure that nothing is left out. So does that sort of make sense to everyone? Different ways that you can approach using this wellness model for your group? Great. Okay. And then Rachel, I don't know if you want to just talk quickly about their printed materials, which are also available.
Sure.
Yeah.
So some of your printed materials are going to have some great space to utilize for your groups to kind of assess their own 6 dimensions of wellness personally, and where things might need a little bit of work. So there's a lot of reflection and forms for you to fill out about your wellness, and you can kind of go ahead and discuss it in your group where people need the most work. You know, this might be maybe part of that survey that you do ahead of time. You know, see where people are at before you talk about the dimensions of wellness, and then maybe do that survey again after you've covered them for the 6 months. See if anybody's well-being has increased. So take a look at all these tools, and fill in forms and check off forms of how you're doing in all of these 6 dimensions, and utilize them if you choose, but we think it's a great tool.
I really thought they were well done when I found these, and I'm so grateful that National Wellness Institute offers these for free, just to anybody. So you can find this on their website. I think you actually have to enter your email address to have access to these tools, but I appreciate getting their emails anyway. They do lots of free webinars and things like that, conferences. So I'm hoping that one or more of these tools will be applicable to you and to your group. Some of them are quite in depth and are several pages long, so they're a little bit more of a introspective activity for yourself to see, where do you lie? What does your wheel look like? Are you extremely heavy on one side or on two particular dimensions and then light on the other four? The idea is that we're balanced. We're well balanced all the way around so that we don't have a flat tire, right? We won't get very far with that flat tire. Any questions about the wellness wheel before we invite Dr. Jones to, have any words of reflection, or just we open it up for Q&A with him on any of the subjects from today, or just anything in general? Do we feel like we're going to be able to use this wheel with our groups? Does it resonate for us? Is it helpful to kind of frame how to structure your support group meetings in the future? I'd love to hear your feedback.
Sharon?
Yes.
This reminds me of what it's like to be a support group facilitator.
Cricket?
The lack of response to of us, I mean, I'm including me with everybody else, lack of readily responsive to your questions is like, I don't know if it's because we're dealing with us folks with Parkinson's, or us folks who are up in age a little bit, or both, or just there's a natural inclination not to want to be the first to talk. And that's all part of what we're dealing with, I think.
It's true. And I think having patience, so, it is a little uncomfortable for me when I ask a question and no one replies. I'm like, hello, is there anybody out there? But then if I just give it a minute, and then, yeah, it's okay. It's okay to have some breath and some gaps, right? I see both Maureen and Jennifer. I think I saw Maureen first. Let's go with her.
I just wanted to say that, yes, I do think this provides a framework that we'll be able to work from.
Okay.
And I think, it's helpful just looking at those dimensions. And I think if nothing else, it's going to give us ideas of what we might bring in to the group.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the feedback. Jennifer.
I was just going to add, I think this wholeness reflection, it truly encourages us to make sure we cover all the different aspects. It's not just about what we can see, it's about what's inside as well. It's the emotional, it's the mental, it's the whole big picture. So I think this will help us to cover everything, as well as to increase enjoyment in life and look and see what is out there that we can achieve and what we can do.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit about, it reminds me of Parkinson's too, in that people think Parkinson's is just the motor, and it's not, so it's similar. It's like, okay, well, we need to delve in and get into those other aspects of the human too.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Fred.
Oh, I was just going to say, just reinforces that our support group members are people. They happen to have Parkinson's, but they're people. And that's what you're trying to support, people.
Amen to that. That's the bottom line, right? Thank you for that. Anyone else?
I just
Okay.
think what you mentioned about, being on balance and balancing everything properly. I think even just doing this exercise today with this group, each of us are sort of thinking about our own lives and where we are putting in plenty of effort and things are going all right, and kind of where things have been left off by the wayside. And so I think not just for the support groups, but even just for us personally, I think this is going to help all of us to, kind of boost up a little bit of this, because we haven't been taking care of our spiritual side for a while, or maybe start eating a little bit healthier because I've been kind of off track on that for a bit. So I think just kind of what you said about the wheel being off, and you feel it a little bit more when you really deep dive into the topics and look at these 6 dimensions and think, oh, I really have to work on that. So I hope that has also provided you with that today.
Thank you, Rachel, for that reflection. Yes, I agree. Things become more apparent when you start to look at them. Okay, so if we could please have Dr. Jones. Yes, so anything that you would like to contribute, or shall we just do Q&A?
Yeah, I think I can just provide a few brief words, just on kind of my reflections of the session, because I learned a lot too. I think these support groups are a very dynamic, evolving thing. None of us were prepared for a virtual world. And having this time to reflect and having Shannon kind of guide us definitely helped me a lot too. And like Dr. Fred said, a lot of us don't even necessarily have Parkinson's ourselves, but we've been affected by someone with it. And we are all just people in the end, whether we have Parkinson's or not. So I think reflecting on these 6 aspects is always a good exercise, just to like check in with yourself. And I kind of liked what Shannon said earlier when she said, like, even if we don't have a very like defined meeting, this is going to be physical meeting, this is going to be occupational meeting. It's just nice to say like, oh, I haven't thought about that aspect in a while, and just kind of remind your support groups about that. And yeah, as far as like things I can provide, why I joined PANC in the first place was just to be like a bridge to the younger generation for, providing care to people with Parkinson's, because it is typically, an elderly disease. But, I kind of want to be like, I guess, like a change maker and help people know there is a younger generation out there willing to be of support. So yeah, I have a lot of different people I've met along my journey that are my age, have the same passion. So I'm happy to bring them on as support group speakers and things like that. So feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any questions for Dr. Jones? We're all so tired. It's what is it total? 2, 4, 6, 7, is it 8 hours of material between last night and today. So we're doing pretty well. We're still standing or sitting, but we're still on.
I ask Dr. Jones a question?
Of course, Jim.
You don't have to answer this, of course, Doctor. Brought you focused on, maybe you already told us and I went right over my head, but is it a family connection? Is it an experience that you, or just hearing about Parkinson's in general with your medical training?
Yes, so my grandfather had Parkinson's pretty much throughout my entire childhood growing up. He was diagnosed when I was probably 1 or 2 years old. So I pretty much knew him only to have Parkinson's. And I think I kind of grew up throughout his progression. So, in the beginning, I just saw he had some of those motor things, and I was just like, oh, my grandpa has shaky hands. Okay, I guess every grandfather has that. And then as time went on, kind of some of the neuropsychological things started coming into play, and his condition definitely deteriorated. But I was learning, right along with him, and just kind of exposed to the whole, the whole life aspect of it, not just the motor symptoms. And so going into like medical school, I really wanted to kind of gain a more holistic sense of what this disease entails and like how we can help in that way. And so that's also part of why I chose to go in like the rehab field, because I feel like we can make an impact on, you know, the whole body in a sense. And like I shared this example with my little breakout room, but when I was spending time at the Northwestern Clinic a few weeks ago, we had this patient who was diagnosed 6 months ago. And so the neurologist referred him to our rehab clinic, and he'd been doing things like boxing therapy, like the Roxay boxing, speak out therapy, like cardiovascular fitness, and they had him walk down the hallways. And I could not tell he had Parkinson's. Like his walk was so normal. I was shocked. And his Parkinson's score actually like went down within like those 6 months of doing some of the physical rehab. So yeah, I think I've kind of found like a little nice niche within the Parkinson's realm, and I'm just really enthusiastic and happy to see where it can go.
Well, I'm going to tease Jim and tell him that, Jim, you should remember that article in the Parkinson Path.
Yeah, I wrote an article.
Well, as he's telling us, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I did hear this.
Somewhere back there in the brain, right? Stored in a special place, far, far away.
Short-term memory is fading faster than long-term.
Understood. Let's hear from Myron, and then I think Kim.
I just had a really quick aside. Because we've been on Zoom, Eric's grandmother, who lives in Southern California, was able to join my support group. And she doesn't have Parkinson's, but her husband did. And she just wanted to know a little bit more about it. So it's been neat meeting Eric's grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah, she still goes to my support group. She still goes to some of the exercise classes that my grandpa used to go to. So it's a really amazing community. Just kind of shows how welcoming everyone is.
That's wonderful. Kim.
So Eric, maybe I misunderstood. There's a difference between physical therapy and rehab therapy. And how is that different, and how does that look different in Parkinson's?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I mean, I'm still learning myself too, but so physical therapy is just one part of the entire rehabilitation of a patient. So the field I want to go into, physical medicine and rehab, we're kind of like the quarterback, you call it, the rehab team. So one aspect is physical therapy, one is occupational therapy, and the third, the main one, is speech therapy. But we also work with like neuropsychology too. So one of the patients that I saw, she's had Parkinson's for probably like 6 to 8 months, and she's having a lot of trouble just coming to terms and accepting her diagnosis. And so, you know, that visit was completely different. And where there was no real focus on the physical issue, it was like, how are we going to help you accept your diagnosis? So got neuropsych on board, and, you know, kind of some psychiatric medication even that can help. But yeah, basically just kind of the quarterback, everyone that oversees the entire rehabilitation process.
Okay, thank you.
Fred.
Do you think that came about as with the shortage of movement disorder docs? We had Dr. Kandar earlier who said that, you know, throughout Kaiser, they have like 8 movement disorder docs, which is not very many. So they were teaching the neurologists about Parkinson's.
Yeah, I mean, I know that movement disorder docs are very hard to come by. And I think that kind of this movement disorder realm is starting to get into the rehab field. I don't really know the whole history of how kind of Parkinson's has gotten into rehab, but to me, it just makes innate sense. Like,
yeah,
like it just totally, yeah, makes sense, you know? So
great.
It's a very developing field. And I mean, even like some physicians in the field, they asked me like, you know, everyone in rehab kind of wants to go into like sports medicine, things that are more exciting. Like, why do you want to go into movement disorders? Like, not even that many students know about this. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Great. All right, Fred.
I would just tell to Kim that physical therapist is a physical therapist who just deals with a lot of exercises, especially for large muscle groups. Eric is going into an MD, is an MD who's going into the whole rehabilitation aspects of all the things that you need to do, all the different disciplines that are used for rehabilitation, not just physical therapy. That's what he was talking about. So again, he's an MD who's really into the whole gamut of the therapies that need to be done for people with various illnesses, including, in this case, Parkinson's disease. What I would like to know from Eric, I mean, the thing with Dr. Jones is he downplays what he's doing. He minimizes what he's doing because, you know, he's a force in his age group, in his peer group, to really take an interest in this. And, you know, he just casually mentions it, but he's really a force to be reckoned with. But I would like to know from him a little bit more about what his interactions are and what the responses that he's getting from his peer group in the medical field. Tell us a little bit more about that, if you could, Eric, please.
Yeah, and thanks for your comments, Dr. Lowe. I really appreciate that. So yeah, I'm actually pretty involved in the medical Twitter community, believe it or not. There's a pretty big community of medical students, residents, physicians. And so I've met some medical students on there that are interested in Parkinson's. Some of them come on our support groups here, but one of them is really interested in like dance for Parkinson's. Another one is a PhD student studying the molecular level of Parkinson's. And yeah, I mean, I would say, like I said, it is a pretty smaller field with not a lot of people even know about it, but like, you know, I'm trying to increase that awareness and finding people that want to go into rehab and Parkinson's. And so kind of bit by bit, I'm chipping away. And actually, this Northwestern program that's kind of like the only one of its kind with the rehab and the Parkinson's, they just started a fellowship program. And Dr. Lowe had actually sent me an article on that about like a year ago or something. They started a fellowship program. And what that is after resident, so the timeline is medical school like me, and then 4 years of residency. And then if you want, you can do a fellowship, which is like 1 year of even more specialization. And then you're a full-on doctor. So Northwestern has a fellowship program specifically for Parkinson's and rehab. And they just started this program a few months ago. So I got to meet the only fellow in the nation who's in rehab, and it was incredible. So maybe I'll be back there in 4 years after residency, but yeah, it's a very emerging field and pretty small, but it's exciting.
So, again, Dr. Jones is a very special person. So, you know, we're blessed to have him on our board.
Was that Jennifer who spoke up?
I just want to say thank you to Dr. Jones and to warn you, you're going to be a very busy person in the future. We need to clone you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Any other last questions or comments before we wrap up our workshop?
I have
2021. Two questions or two comments?
Two comments, or one question and one comment.
One of each. Okay, let's hear them.
One question. We used to have an executive director. We hope to get an executive director in the near future. Myron, you can talk more about that. But one of the things we used to have with the executive director is literally a monthly meeting with the facilitators. And my question is, I think there's a lot of a good camaraderie that has developed between everybody here. And I would like to be able to continue something like this so that people can sort of cross-fertilize each other with ideas and help each other when they have questions. And you know, that would be, to me, a benefit, but it's up to you guys if you'd like to have that continue. If so, then we can work on trying to get that done from the PANC board to try to get something like that organized, if you think it has any value.
Yeah, I certainly would love to have something like that. It's been, I feel like even if I didn't talk to some of these people, a bond, and the one I did talk to, you know, like friends. So I think it could be really useful.
Okay. Anybody know? Okay, all right.
Thumbs up, thumbs up. And I would be happy to help in any way that I can, as far as, you know, I've got everyone's name and an email address. And so I could send, I don't know what's appropriate. Maybe I send that to Myron, send that contact list. And then you can figure out amongst PANC how you want to deal with that, or you can be in touch with me after the fact, Myron, if you want to discuss any information that I might have that you don't.
And then, good. The second thing is, in between our morning and afternoon sessions, I was on 2-hour meetings on Zoom for something else.
Oh my.
Do you want to learn about a really interesting self thing to do when you feel stressed?
Well, sure.
Okay. So this deals with something called somatovisceral reflexes. And what it does is that it literally, if you work on different parts of your body, it will affect your whole body and through your brain, through your vagus nerve, that type of thing. So there's 3 specific things. So feel your clavicle, your collarbone, and put your index finger just below it, and then bring the fingers close right up to the sternum. So your index finger is just below your clavicle or your collarbone, and you're like this. Your 4 fingers are here, 4 fingers together. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, and then just rub lightly. You don't have to do it heavily, just rub lightly for about 45 seconds. Come on, Rick, you can do it. You don't have to do it, that's fine.
And this is a calming?
Yeah, this helps me calm you.
Calming, okay.
Okay,
Oh.
so 45 seconds. And then the second is on the left side. So you're seeing my right, but it's on my left. There you go. Go again on your clavicle all the way up to, you can feel your arm bone, your humerus. And then from that clavicle, go just down. So you're just below the clavicle. And again, rub for 45 seconds.
Okay. Step 2.
Like Karen is zoning out. I love it.
Self-massage is nice.
Yeah. So that's 45 seconds. And then the last is, this is more difficult. So you can feel the sort of this, what we call it, the seventh cervical spine, C7. It's like a little hump there. So just below that, put your 4 fingers.
We're just finishing up. Good timing.
Yeah, so if you can reach there. And then what you want to do is spread and twist. So spread and twist. And again, lightly. You don't have to do it really strongly, just lightly, just spread and twist. And what this does again, hold it for about 15 seconds. So 45, 45, and 15. And then that just helps to bring your parasympathetic nervous system up. It calms your sympathetic nervous system, helps to get you de-stressed.
Thank you, Fred. Yes, very nice. We have several tools and tips to take with us from this workshop, including the self-massage. We've got our breathing. We have our gratitude practice, our joy spotting. Yes, lots of helpful tips. So I just wanted to say to all of you, thank you so much. I can't believe you've made it to the end. We're down to 20. We're strong though. So thank you so much for all of your, yes, Myron, did you want to say something before we close?
I just wanted, before you close off, I just want to remind people that you've heard from several of our people that we've got our educational conference coming up in October on the 23rd. The registration is now open. It's on our website. So panctoday.org. Register now. It's going to be both, well, we hope, in person and virtual. So you can register for one or the other. But hope to see you there. You're going to, I don't think Dr. Egley is speaking this year. Dr. Kandar is almost always on the stage at some point during, he's great. And he organizes everything, gets our keynote speaker for us, driving force for PANC. So, you know, come and hear us. And even those of you who aren't in the Sacramento area, you can come virtually and see just what we do. We had, the last time we were in person, we had almost 1,000 people there.
Amazing.
So it's a pretty special event for us. So, and I just want to personally thank you. This has been great, all three of you. So, and thank the rest of you for coming.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
sticking with us.
Thank you. Thank you all also.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
And
This
can
has
I
been
add
especially awesome from Kelly.
that we have the cop walk on the 18th of September at Maidu Park in Roseville. It'll be outside, it'll be gorgeous weather. And if you're energetic, you can do the 5K run. And if you're like me, you can do the walk. So there'll be lots
Very
of
good.
vendors there. They'll feed us lunch. Lunch happens to be a hot dog and chips and a soda. Hey, but it's still fun. And it's a great place.
Thank you, Carol.
Sounds like a
Thank
great.
you, everybody.
Invite your families too if they want to do the 5K and the younger kids. If you want to get that energy out, we have 5K for them.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you all so much for what you do. And I look forward to staying in touch with you. And I hope you stay in touch with each other. I will be sending out follow-up information next week. And yes, just thanking you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure Rachel and Kelly is on board with me with that. Thank you to Dr. Jones for coming today and spending your afternoon with us. And yes, so lovely to meet you all. And we will see you soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Sharon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you so much. Take care.